Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm excited to introduce our topic, the origins of our negative inner voices. In this presentation, we'll explore how these internal critics develop, where they come from, and how understanding them can help us regain control over our minds. Over the next few slides, we'll look into the roots of these voices, how they influence us, and what we can do to free ourselves from their hold. Let's begin this journey of self-discovery together. Let's explore the origin of our inner voices. Essentially, these voices aren't really born within us. They are internalized versions of external voices we've heard throughout our lives. Think about a critical teacher, a disappointed parent, or even a dismissive peer. These external judgments can leave a lasting imprint on our psyche, shaping the way we talk to ourselves. We are incredibly receptive to influence. Just as we pick up language from our environment, we also absorb emotional patterns, or what we might call emotional syntax. This process happens quite subtly. For example, when a child learns words like table or tree, they also learn emotional categories like failure, shame, love, or anxiety. These words, combined with the tone of voice from parents or the social context, create mental frameworks through which we interpret our experiences. Once these internalized voices are established, they tend to operate outside of our conscious awareness, guiding our reactions and beliefs without us even realizing it. And here's the important part. Changing these internal voices is challenging, much like unlearning a mother tongue. But just like learning a new language, it is definitely possible. It requires practice, patience, and a conscious effort to reframe or replace those internalized messages. Recognizing this origin helps us understand that we have the power to reshape our inner dialogue, which is a crucial step on our journey towards self-awareness and growth. Let's talk about the complexity of changing our inner patterns. Because these patterns are rooted in our linguistic and emotional habits, transforming them isn't something that happens overnight. It requires patience, just like learning a new language, whether it's French or Japanese, takes years of practice. The same applies to restructuring our emotional vocabulary. Having a rich vocabulary allows us to notice subtle differences in our experiences. For example, if we know the word anxiety, we can begin to notice when we feel it, investigate what triggers it, and eventually learn how to regulate that emotion. Without the right words, feelings can feel formless and overwhelming. This is where therapy plays a crucial role. Think of it as an exercise in expanding your emotional vocabulary, numbing your feelings, refining how you understand them, and distinguishing between different states. The more precise your emotional language, the more manageable those feelings become. So remember, these inner patterns are deeply ingrained linguistic habits, and changing them does demand patience and effort. Through therapy, we can expand our emotional vocabulary, which ultimately helps us better understand and regulate our inner world. Now, let's explore the role of language in emotional awareness. Sigmund Freud highlighted an important point. Language helps us bear frustration. When we put our feelings into words, we transform vague, chaotic suffering into something more structured and manageable. For example, journaling is a powerful tool. By writing down what we feel, those feelings become visible, external, and concrete, making them easier to understand and process. Shared vocabulary also plays a crucial role in strengthening relationships. When couples can express, "I feel abandoned," instead of lashing out with anger, they build bridges of understanding. Clear communication fosters connection and empathy. However, it's important to recognize that language isn't always used constructively. Sometimes, we disassociate or create emotional distance as a defense, especially when feelings become overwhelming. The real challenge is to fully register and experience life's emotions without becoming emotionally drowned by them. It's about finding that balance, using language as a tool for awareness rather than avoidance. Balancing emotional registration is a crucial aspect of emotional health. Total immersion in every emotion we experience might feel intense, but it's neither healthy nor sustainable in the long run. Instead, we need to practice selective disassociation, meaning we choose not to feel everything all the time. This helps us maintain stability. The key is finding that balance, acknowledging our feelings without letting them control us completely. It's about permitting some emotional distance so we can observe our feelings objectively, without becoming overwhelmed or detached altogether. Remember, emotional health requires a delicate balance, acknowledging feelings without being dominated by them, and allowing some distance without losing connection. This balance helps us stay grounded and resilient in the face of life's challenges, which ties directly into our overall theme of emotional well-being and self-awareness. Healing really starts with noticing those negative inner voices. They're often pretty subtle, like that faint whisper of, "You're not good enough" before a meeting, or "No one will love you" during a moment of intimacy. These thoughts might seem small, but they have a big impact on how we see ourselves and our lives. One helpful exercise is sentence completion, where you reflect on prompts like, "When I make a mistake, I believe." This helps us uncover the hidden scripts we carry, stories we've inherited from family, culture, and society. These scripts shape our beliefs, often without us realizing it. To truly heal, we need to distinguish between what I call the social self, which is conditioned by external voices, and the transcendent self, which has the power to create and choose its beliefs. It's about becoming aware of which internalized beliefs serve us and which ones we can let go of. The goal is to consciously decide which beliefs to keep and which to discard, empowering ourselves to shape a healthier inner voice and overall well-being. This process connects directly to our journey of self-awareness and growth. Let's talk about the process of self-understanding. Human development is really a gradual journey of separating ourselves from inherited scripts, those patterns and beliefs we've absorbed from our environment. As we move through this process, authenticity begins to emerge, especially when we shift from simply reacting to social conditioning toward creating our own sense of self through self-authorship. A great example of this is Picasso's artistic journey. He first mastered traditional conventions, then intentionally broke them, and eventually returned to a more spontaneous, childlike style, yet with the awareness and purpose of an adult. This illustrates how true growth involves a balance of mastery and reinvention. Similarly, emotional mastery can be seen as like unconscious competence. It's that point where your emotional responses become fluent, almost automatic, like a musician playing scales without thinking. But reaching that point takes disciplined effort. You need consistent practice until these new emotional patterns become second nature. So, in summary, the key points are: first, the importance of gradual separation from inherited scripts. Second, developing authenticity through self-authorship. And finally, recognizing that disciplined effort is necessary for these new patterns to feel natural and effortless over time. This process is really at the heart of meaningful self-understanding and growth. Let's explore how different cultures approach emotional depth. In Eastern traditions, you'll often find an emphasis on simplicity, art, and poetry as ways to understand and express feelings. Meanwhile, Western traditions tend to favor a more analytical approach, exploring the complexities of emotions through reason and debate. Both perspectives are valuable, and understanding them can deepen our insight into human emotional experience. Now, for example, love. It's something many of us find terrifying. That's because love can trigger early traumas related to dependency and vulnerability. When we experience love, we're not only feeling the primary emotions like fear, sadness, or joy. We also carry layers of more complex feelings, second and third-order emotions, like shame about our fears or anger about our sadness. This is where philosophical and cultural frameworks come into play. They give us tools to navigate these intricate layers of emotion, helping us understand ourselves and others better, especially in the context of love and vulnerability. So, recognizing these different perspectives helps us appreciate the richness of emotional experience across cultures and the importance of these frameworks in our personal growth. Now, let's talk about embracing complexity and vulnerability. Often, we tend to avoid our feelings because facing them can be uncomfortable or even painful. But avoiding these emotions actually leads to stagnation, preventing us from truly living fully. To experience happiness and love, those deep, meaningful parts of life, we need to accept that they are not simple or easy. They require us to be vulnerable and to have the courage to confront our self-sabotaging patterns. This is where self-compassion comes into play. It's about being kind to ourselves, about seeing our flaws without harsh judgment. When we practice self-compassion, we create space for growth, for genuine connection with ourselves and others. So, remember, embracing emotional complexity, being vulnerable, and practicing self-compassion are essential steps for true growth and fulfillment. They are not easy, but they are necessary if we want to live authentically and fully. Now, let's explore the role of therapy and self-insight in our personal growth. Meditation, as we've discussed, often emphasizes observing our thoughts. This inward focus helps us gain valuable self-awareness. However, therapy introduces an external perspective, another person who can see things we might miss ourselves. This requires humility because truly meaningful growth often hinges on accepting insights that others offer us. Moving on to relationships, vulnerability is essential. Love truly thrives when we're honest, but that honesty needs to be balanced with kindness. It's not about revealing everything indiscriminately, but about editing ourselves, not to deceive, but to protect and nurture genuine connection. All these elements, meditation, therapy, and relationships, highlight that growth involves both self-awareness and openness to others. Together, they create a foundation for deeper understanding and more authentic connections.